We want to hear from you. Submit your questions, comments, and concerns via email at arizonahorizon@asu.edu.
Folks in the West Valley are celebrating a perfect landing of their own. Luke Air Force Base landed the lucrative contract to train F-35 pilots. Here to talk about what that means for Luke and surrounding communities are Glendale Mayor Elaine Scruggs, James Rusty Mitchell, Director of the Luke Air Force Base Community Initiatives Teams, and Ron Seitz, Executive Director of Fighter Country Partnership. It's good to have you all here. Thanks for joining us. Mayor, why was Luke selected, and what kind of campaigning did you do to get Luke selected?
Luke was selected truly because it's the very best place in the entire United States of America to train fighter jet pilots. It's been doing it for 60 years, but we had to prove ourselves over again. You know, that's just the way it goes. You have to prove it's the right place. So that's where Luke Forward, the campaign, came in. The mayors of the West Valley cities and Supervisor Max Wilson, who represents the West Valley cities, all joined together, put in a lot of money over a period of 3 years, hired some consultants to help us tell our message. Because there was a message in Washington, D.C. that was just wrong. And so we told our message of managed growth, how we want the F-35s here, how we want Luke here. And then we took it statewide. 21,000 people joined our campaign and sent messages to the Pentagon saying, keep Luke here.
Real quickly, what was that message that was wrong? How did you correct it?
You know, Ted, the tremendous growth that's gone on in Maricopa County. And that's what folks that go to the Pentagon, the military, Air Force, Air Force personnel that go to the Pentagon, and then they come back out here and they say, well, it didn't look like that when I was here, and look at all these houses and look at these rooftops, and now we can't do pilot training and so forth. And we had to get the message across, no, you can. And what we did, and this is very important, in the early 1990s, and this started out of the city of Glendale, we started to build a body of state legislation that continued for close to 20 years that protected the mission of Luke.
Let's talk about Luke and changes that will need to be made to the base to accommodate the F-35s.
Well, initially, right out of the gate, it's about $110 million worth of construction contracts that will be let. They're actually have already been drawn up. We were waiting for the record of decision, and now that we have the record of decision, those contracts will be let to different companies. The majority of that money is going to be going to Arizona companies that will be able to do the construction on base.
Now, and the mayor mentioned the problems of encroachment and development and these sorts of things. The noise from these F-35s has been a major factor in discussions, especially folks there on the west side. Have you heard an F-35?
Thank you. Actually, I have, actually. 2 years ago, I went to Eglin Air Force Base. I was invited down there to listen to the F-35 in the traffic pattern. And you know, I've been around fighters for 35 years in my career, and the F-35 was flying with an F-15, an F-16, an F-18, all in the traffic pattern. And if you closed your eyes, and as I did, you can't tell the difference. They're all loud. You know, we get noise complaints now on the F-16. We will get noise complaints on the F-35. But you could not tell an appreciable difference. And an important part is 2 weeks ago, this is a trivia question for the future. 2 weeks ago, we had an F-35 come into Luke Air Force Base unexpectedly. Came in, landed, stayed about 4 days, and then left and continued on to Edwards Air Force Base. We didn't get one noise complaint from that aircraft. Came in the mid-morning and left on a Sunday afternoon all by itself, and we didn't get one phone call.
How many of these planes are we going to be seeing out at Luke, and what's the timetable for this? And what happens to the F-16s? Are they mothballed? Are they yesterday's news?
Well, no, they're not going to be mothballed. They're still going to be flying for some time, but currently there's 3 squadrons or 72 F-35s that will be coming in through Luke, so it's a good amount of planes.
And as far as the training is concerned, does that differ from F-16 training to the point where folks who are away from the base are going, oh, that didn't happen before?
It's a much more advanced aircraft. I mean, this aircraft is so advanced, literally, as it's landing, if it has a problem, it'll order a part before it touches down. So, of course, things are going to be different. But what you're going to have is the same high-quality individuals that live in our communities that maintain the F-16s. You know, that viability of Luke Air Force Base is going to stay open for another 40 years. So that's another 40 years of high-quality families in our community. It's good stuff.
You mentioned, I think, in your statement, the sustainable economic benefits to the region and to the state. Explain that, and explain to those, again, who live in the area, those who don't live in the area, why this is such a big deal.
Oh, it's tremendous. Luke is part of a total military system in the state of Arizona, but it's the key part of it. It's the main user of the Barium Goldwater Range. So that kind of sustains the missions of the other military airports. Altogether, the military would be the third highest employer in the state of Arizona.
Right.
Absolutely. And the impact from Luke by itself is over $2 billion a year. So think of it as another city. They have to buy services, they have to hire personnel, they do everything that any other big business does. So they're great for the economy.
Talk about the dynamic between the base and the surrounding communities.
Oh, thank you. I was hoping you were going to ask that question, because Luke Air Force Base, as the mayor said, we've been out there for 6 decades doing essentially the same mission, training America's fighter pilots. You know, why are we here? We're here because of the weather that we're enjoying today, great infrastructure on the base, and the Barium Goldwater Range. But what really made us stand out is the efforts of Mayor Scruggs and the other West Valley elected officials, and really the people that live across the valley, showing their support for the enduring mission of Luke Air Force Base. If we hadn't had the leadership of Mayor Scruggs and the other mayors, we might have melted back into just what the other bases were doing. It really made a huge difference. We are the envy of the Air Force on our community support and what we have.
And again, you're from Fighter Country Partnership, emphasis
Correct.
on the word partnership. Talk to us about how important it is to partner with others in something like
Well,
this.
the collaboration is pretty much unparalleled in the country, and it's because of our elected officials. I mean, the leadership that our elected officials provided, really, we sat and took guidance from the community initiative team at Luke Air Force Base and our elected officials and worked with them, and just, again, that collaboration is just unparalleled in the country, and the envy of a lot of military installations and communities in the country.
Mayor, there's been some concern regarding possible defense cuts at the end of the year, which could impact perhaps what's going on out at Luke. And I believe Rob Robb at the Arizona Republic wrote about how it may not be the best in terms, I think he called it stagnant, dead capital, as opposed to vibrant, something that's happening on the east side with Williams Air Force Base, the old Williams Air Force Base. Talk to us, because we will have some folks who will say this is federal money, this makes the community dependent on the federal government, and that's not necessarily healthy. How do you respond to that?
And actually, that goes back to what I said in the beginning. Luke itself has an impact in the region, or in the state, excuse me, of over $2 billion a year. They need to go out and procure services and contracts, and they create business, and they create jobs, and they create employment, and they fill houses that are being built. So yes, they're government, but they act like a private industry the way that they operate. And one thing I wanted to say that doesn't get brought up too much, and that's how much they give back. And I know this doesn't, Rob's not going to care about this, but the men and women at Luke Air Force Base volunteer over 100,000 hours a year in our communities. They're our neighbors. Their kids go to school with our kids and so forth. They are a vibrant part of our economy, absolutely vibrant. And you know what?
Yeah.
We're going to have a military, and it's going to be somewhere, and this is the best place for it to be.
Are you concerned at all about possible budget cuts at the end of the year if that Congress can't get its act together?
I'm concerned as an American citizen about those budget cuts. You know, how it affects Luke Air Force Base is speculative and way down the chain, but I think all Americans should be concerned about the budget cuts that are on the horizon that the Department of Defense is going to have to look at.
Last word. Is the West Valley, is the area around Luke too dependent on Luke?
No, I don't believe it's too dependent. It's just everybody works well together. It's a perfect environment.
All right, we'll stop it right there. You can't end better than that, I guess. Good to have you all here. Thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thank you.